a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon today. A massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Henrik86, Dick Earth Skeptic, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, 2 shout-outs today. Burn Fat Till My Stomach is as Flat as the Earth. Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Liam Nedrick, Dank, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Brakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Tina Baker, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So a massive shout-out of thanks to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to raise the mic on the Discord and G+ live stream so you can enjoy the dulcet tones of whoever the hell is in there while I set up for today's live show.
Good morning.
Morning.
Get your situations resolved?
My fridge situation isn't resolved, no.
Okay, that's what I was thinking about.
Is that what you're asking?
Not even a word?
Because I'm late, right?
No, yeah, I thought maybe the guy was there fixing it.
No. I was going to get it when I was listening back to the show from Monday on the re-up yesterday, Tuesday. And in it, I'm like, yeah, I want to give the guy business if it's £100, £150. It was £250. So I'm like, oh, well, I can get a cheap fridge for that. Which is precisely why it's priced that way. Which annoys me greatly because my sentiment is I don't want to junk something big, like a fridge, if it can be repaired. It's like, yeah, it can be repaired, but they put the price of the parts at such an astronomical price that it's 60 to 70% of the cost of the fridge. So you're like, oh, right, so they obviously don't want you to repair it. It is engineered that way. Why am I fighting it? So I'm like, okay, got to buy a new one then.
Yeah, that's the way it is on most things nowadays. Like I said, my parents had a fridge that went 35 years. A neighbor of mine from the other property I used to own, his almost went 38, I think, 37, he told me. So the old ones were made to last, the new ones aren't.
Yeah, it ain't like that now. Now I'm interested in something specific. If I'm going to buy something new, I'm then very, very fussy about what it does. And one of the specific things I want is to be quiet. I can't, it's right next to me. The door to the kitchen is right next to this microphone. So if the compressor's loud, which the current one wasn't, then that's going to annoy me. So it needs to be very, very quiet, which limits my options, which limits the places I can buy it, which is a pain in the ass. Anyway, let's not turn this into what fridge.
Well, I was more interested in just you thinking about your show and the background noise and the compressor. You have to take everything into account.
Well, yeah, well, that's priority number one, actually. It wasn't taking it into account as like an extra thing. It's like, how loud is this fridge? How loud is that fridge? So we went all day yesterday fridge shopping, and all I was looking at was how loud they were.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant. You have to do it based on the environment you're going to use it in. And did you find one that was quiet? Not that I want to keep talking about fridges, but...
yeah. Any of the Samsungs, basically, they use a digital compressor or something technology that's called digital. It's probably a load of old nonsense, but ultimately speaking, they've all got a very low decibel rating. So anything below maybe 40 dB is considered quiet.
Good.
A fridge in a hotel room, for example, would be 32 dB, which is basically silent. It's about.
Is it the same big size you want, or is it smaller?
Yeah, it's just a normal fridge, but it just happens to be quiet. If you buy a Samsung, a modern Samsung fridge just happens to be quiet. So there are others. LG, I think, is also a similar type of setup with the type of compressor and the type of power supply. So it's also very quiet, but they just happen to be a lot dearer.
And meanwhile, while you were shopping for quiet compressors, Mitchell from Australia put a second video up.
I saw. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
One slight criticism of what he said. So he said, if you're in the ISS begging the question of a sphere Earth that's got a vacuum in violation of the natural law, so very good disclaimers there. He said you shouldn't see the stars moving. It's like, well, not necessarily. You know, they are moving in relation to their model, and I appreciate that he'd got the disclaimer in there first, but that doesn't necessarily cover him when he's begging the question, saying if I'm falling around a sphere Earth begging the question of orbits, and I'm in a sky vacuum begging the question of a violation of natural law, then I wouldn't see any movement. And then it cuts to Anthony, and Anthony's like, you wouldn't see circumpolar rotation of the stars from the ISS. So he's just that little bit more specific about what he's talking about. So in a way, Anthony's covered Mitchell's error by being specific. But other than that, I mean, I'm being hypercritical here. You know what I mean?
No, I know. Yeah, we know that when we state what their model is, we have to be exact to their model because we want to be honest. Although the reverse is never appreciated by them to do it to us, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We don't get away with the slightest digression from certitude and definition being absolutely spot on and things like that. They can get away with P waves and S waves. You're a moron. They get away with a very low standard. We have to give a very detailed explanation that doesn't have any contradictions or errors in it. And you know, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I wasn't laying down any corrections. And I don't want to be harsh to Mitchell. I'm not criticising him, although I am absolutely criticising you, Mitchell.
No, I think overall he got it, and Anthony said it better.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pander to him and give him a shit sandwich. It's just, look, that is a slight error. Just that's it. Other than that, another fantastic video. So enough. This is a shit sandwich. It was still a great video.
When it's downloaded to where I can transfer it, I'm gonna pass on 2 star trails I did last night. Just from obviously I do it as much as I can. So I did 2. I woke up, set it up, got up at 1 a.m, hit it again, same location. Aimed at Polaris, so we can see what happens when you do it.
Where's the Hangout link?
I got it.
Ballbusters and in Master B.
You sure about that?
Yeah, I see it. You want me to send it to you, Kiwi?
It's not in Ballbusters.
Send it again in Ballbusters.
No, Master B.
Master B.
Anyway, we've got 60 seconds before I'm starting, so I've sent it again in Ballbusters, and 10th has resent it in Master B.
Yeah, I just sent it. No, I just sent it to John.
I'm not seeing that in Skype. Huh.
I'll put it in Master B as well.
I haven't actually.
All right, John, I sent it to you directly as well as Master B.
Maybe that's why I didn't have the show actually start the last couple of times, because I didn't actually schedule it first. Let's see if that makes a difference today. Because the last 2 days I've started the live show, there's been an issue. Didn't start. So let's see if this makes the difference. Oh dear, I'm late. Okay, well, let's see if this works. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we're joined by 10th Man and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Very good morning to all.
Yay, the live stream worked
Yeah.
today, no technical issues. Excellent.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, Discord. Hello, Nathan. It's really good to be here.
Yeah.
Super
Good morning.
enthusiasm. How come you're here so
Hey,
early,
John.
QE?
Good morning,
Early-
buddy.
This is the first time you've been here for the start of a live show in about 3 months.
I've been up for an hour and a half. No, 5:30, 2, whatever. Long time. I'm changing my schedule.
Fair enough. Ah, pleasure to have you. You can join in with housekeeping. Or encourage others to join in with housekeeping. Let's put it that way. Right, let's do this. Let's do this. Everyone ready? It's going to be an epic housekeeping. I can feel it.
Let's go.
Right, let's start with any evidence of a physical Earth curve edge obstruction, formerly known as Earth curve, currently destroyed as the geometric horizon that we can't see, can't measure, only exists in the maths. Any evidence
Not
of
from
Earth curve?
not from QE's new tangent point.
You mean the one that Al-Biruni calculated?
Yeah, the one that Al-Biruni saw and measured as a physical obstruction, but it is simultaneously told to us that we cannot see and only exists in the maths. Yes, that one. Correct, Rebel. Hey, Paul.
Right. I believe he saw it, but he only saw it on the Monday in the afternoon, about 5 after 1. See, if he went there like on Tuesday morning, or some other day or other season, he would see something else. So I believe Al-Biruni, he just didn't do it the next day.
I mean, that might be your just so story for the add-on problem that Al-Biruni faces in the current rhetoric, but if you keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate Rebel, you'll find that they're telling us quite specifically that we do not see, cannot see, wouldn't expect to see a geometric horizon, and it only exists in the maths. So by the rebuttals we're currently getting from the globe side, it would seem that Al-Biruni just did not see it, could not measure it, and it didn't exist in the maths back then because he didn't get the maths from measuring it because he couldn't see it. It's just a big problem for the globe, really.
What globe?
Right. That's why I'm saying it's a different observation on a different day. So, but a priori they would have to say that he couldn't see it because they would have to concede you can never see it.
That's right. It's epic, isn't it? Isn't it great?
Yeah, but they got
Yeah,
their
it's
radius.
perfect. I mean that's where the whole thing started, according to the narrative. That's where it dies, in my mind. Like we don't have to go into space even. That's where it started. That's where it dies.
I totally agree. Quick couple of shout outs. Shout out to Rob Wiggles. He says Super Chat works. Indeed it does. Thank you very much for the Super Chat though. Really appreciate your support, Rob Wiggles. And also Dank. Better double check. Oh, right. Thank you very much for checking that the Super Chat works, chaps and ladies.
Good morning, guys.
Hello, Chocolate. Good to have
What's
you.
up? Thank you, sir.
Guy. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Hey, Arwin.
Well, what would that be again?
Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Hey, 10th Man. Welcome back.
Yes, it's very hot.
It's over there,
Okay.
but it's hot.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
over there. Any evidence
Have
of the
you seen
distance?
it? Have you seen the skies over here?
There's going to be a storm here.
Not a single cloud.
Yeah, beautiful for you, stormy for me.
Really?
Yeah.
So you got yesterday's storm, did you?
I got it yesterday. It was lovely. as I ran around shop to shop looking at horrible, boring fridges. I had to put on a mask for the first time.
The sun is over there. It's kind of behind the roof. But yeah, no distance to it, only apparent distances, and that's purely dependent on the will of the observer if they want to reify it into a physical, literal object.
No, we don't
Well, you
suffer
have to
physical assumption
presuppose
bias here.
you're on a sphere for 93 miles, 93 million miles number. You have to presuppose you're on a sphere, so no evidence.
Who is that?
That was Rebel.
Hey, can
Did
you
we
hear
lose
me?
Nathan?
Uh-oh.
Someone's
Yeah,
at my
we're
front
having
door. I'm really
technical
sorry. Can you take
difficulty.
over the housekeeping, 10th man? Bear with me a second.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Any evidence of Earth radius, the R value?
Black Swan.
Love that sound. Anybody in Discord? Any evidence of Earth radius, the R value?
Yeah.
Not even.
Black Swan took a dump in that word soup.
Okay. Any evidence of axial rotation, the Earth-based variety?
The stars are moving.
Got a stroppy phone
anyone?
call.
X.
Got a stroppy
Wait,
phone
the
call from
stars are
a...
both.
Sorry to interrupt. I got a stroppy phone call from a delivery driver. It's like, I've been knocking on your door. Why aren't you answering? I'm like, I didn't hear anything. My bad. I'll come to my front door. I open my door, and he's there knocking on my neighbour's door.
It was refraction. He thought it was your door.
You know, and someone's barking down the phone at you like you've done something wrong. And I'm like, I'm in a flat. How can I not hear the front door being knocked? Well, when it's not my door being knocked, I'm not going to hear it.
Must be a baller.
Where are we at in housekeeping? My bad for disappearing. Sorry about that.
We just finished the axial rotation and R value.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No, possible.
Impossible to test. You can't even calculate gas pressure without establishing a container.
Yeah, the ballers are going to need a container to prove that without the container, I don't know where they're going with this.
They're not is the answer to that. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, still waiting for Dr. Becky from 2019, and he won't answer the emails. Hiding.
She keeps pumping out the videos, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She likes the YouTube life. Good for her. As YouTube goes, you know, more power to her. Good for you. Keep up the good work on YouTube. However, would stone you metaphorically if you were to come here and assert your globe Earth belief. But good luck on YouTube.
We'd stone her in a nice way, though, like, you know, a nice stoning.
A metaphorical
Well,
stoning.
that's-
Metaphorically stoning her.
Yeah, metaphorically, she doesn't want a rocky start.
Did you say
He
you
who
covered...
throws the first globe.
Yeah, he who is
Love
without
her.
sin to throw the first globe.
I'll kick her
Good.
in the stones.
You what, sorry?
I'll kick her in the stones.
Was that... No tranny bashing here.
No,
Metaphorically?
you don't hurt ladies.
Isn't
moving on.
stones a weight measure in England? Don't they say stones when they weigh people?
Correct.
Yeah, but that's why I said throw the globe, because it doesn't exist. It's not going to hurt her.
Yeah, I didn't know that until... I don't know, when I was maybe 20, that's not a universally understood thing in Imperial. People don't often use stone. So when I'm like, well, I'm 14 stone, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
14 pounds in a stone, for anybody who's interested. Anyway, where were we? Did you say you did molten iron core and R value already?
No, just R value and axial.
Okay,
Well,
in
he did the axial rotation, and then Arwen said something like, "Oh, the stars are rotating." Maybe we should ask that question. Why are the stars rotating when you're not on the spinning ball? Since that's asserted as the reason why the stars are rotating.
I mean, to solve that problem in the way that the trench level fundy solved the problem with Coriolis, is that they assert that they're in the same reference frame, right? But
They usually do.
Coriolis, not
but-
Coriolis, please.
Well, they usually do, but are the stars in the same atmosphere?
well, that's what I was going to get to. They've already extended it out to the moon, so why not just have Earth generating so much atmosphere that everything in the entire presupposed Milky Way / heliocentric style universe, their descriptions of what the sky is, just have our atmosphere extend out to the astronomical distances as well, and have it all rotating around us in our atmosphere. Why not?
Or maybe Earth is rotating underneath it. That would be easier.
I would love for somebody to come in here and tell us the stars are in our atmosphere. That'd be great.
But it isn't, Darwin. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
but the stars go over the horizon.
If they're getting
The
circumpolar
horizon.
rotation from the ISS, then it has nothing to do with us rotating underneath as a non-inertial spinning reference frame. That can't be applied if you still see the
Could you
same
actually
polar
hear me?
rotation from the ISS, which is claimed to be in the inertial reference frame. You can't have it both ways. It's the same. It's just another slip-up. And Mitchell from Australia correctly identified that it's just a way of them getting you to beg the question and argue about whether or not you should or shouldn't have star rotation in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. So good for you, Mitchell, for nipping that in the bud straight away. Because yeah, that's how I view it. I think it's just a way of getting them to beg the question of a sky vacuum space and whether or not you see star rotation's irrelevant, and buys into the convoluted cluster screw that is Coriolis arguments. So let's argue about whether or not we've got Coriolis in space, because that'll really mess things up to the point where nobody can understand any of it.
Hey, while we're on star rotation,
Nobody caught my follow-up argument.
Go on, what's
I
your
don't know.
follow-up argument? Was it a good one or a I'm going to be appealing to nonsense one?
No, well, I think it is based on a common misconception, but hey, the Earth has to be a spinning globe, because otherwise, why would the stars rotate behind the horizon?
That's a begging the question
Speaking
fallacy.
of,
Hold on.
Well,
You're just assuming physicality at the horizon, though, aren't you? Behind the horizon. So what? It's a physical sphere edge for it to rotate behind it as a sphere. You're just begging the question 6 ways from Sunday, Arwen.
But it would have to be, because otherwise, the assumption that the globe of the heavens is a globe surrounding the spinning ball Earth makes no sense.
That's a different begging the question fallacy. You've just switched it onto something completely different now. What's with this dance that you're doing? What's going on, Arwen?
I don't know. I'm just trying something.
Fair enough.
okay, so let's not take it out to the second law of thermodynamics violation, like where the ISS is supposed to be. Or a simple helicopter hovering. Why are the stars still rotating and the Earth is not spinning underneath the helicopter?
Yeah. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it
Because
not
it's moving
rotating
lockstep.
because it's not rotating as a separate reference frame and rotating together and giving you Coriolis. You can't have it both ways.
Conservation of momentum, Nathan.
That's
Conservation of momentum.
Not Coriolis, though, is it? Conservation momentum doesn't give you a 15 degrees an hour deviation to prove Earth spinning.
But I don't think there is Coriolis effect on Earth.
hey, I just posted a Star Trail short video from last night. If you want to, it's a masterpiece. If you want to play, it's 10 seconds long. Took 2.5 hours to get.
How long does it take the ISS to go around the Earth, supposedly?
90 minutes.
Supposedly.
So 90 minutes. So 2.5 hours for my 10 seconds, and compared to the ones from the ISS in the length of the star trails, and you could see a vast difference.
Okay.
You see the shooting streak in the sky, the plane? Mic check.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, why is that plane not rotating either?
That's a good point.
So the Earth is rotating, but that plane is just right there, making a straight line.
So it's not deviating. It's not got
Well,
Coriolis.
it's
It's not got Earth
Coriolis then.
rotating underneath. Any
Wow, that's a good
scientific
point.
any scientific evidence of gravity?
Go down, go boom boom.
Yep. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
well, they told us that it's not a force, so how could there be any evidence for it?
That's not true. Rumpus was backtracking that all the way yesterday. Remember?
What do you mean backtracking?
Basically saying like, no, it is really force. Just, yeah,
Well-
doesn't really work out, but it is still a force. And everybody that said that it's not a force actually did say it was a force after all. We were cherry picking or something.
How could it be an effect and a force at the same time?
It isn't, right. There's two different types of gravity as asserted by Rumpus. One is Newtonian, one is Einsteinian. The one superseded the other. He didn't address that. The one that has superseded the other is not a force. Now, he said that when I gave him quotes of two different people making it plain that it's not a force, he said, yeah, but later they made it clear that we do treat it like a force, though, and we absolutely must. That was his explanation. So it's not a force, but we must treat it as one. Because the pseudoscience pretender clown muppets tell us we must. All right. Yeah, I included the declaration by George Musa that you can think of it as a force as part of his quote. Yeah, you can think of it as a force in defiance of his statement that it's not one, if you want to. We realise that by thinking of it as a force, you'd be guilty of a reification fallacy, because it's not a force, it only exists in maths.
Has anybody ever asked them why? Why do you have to think of it as a force if it's not? Have they
because-
ever addressed that?
Yeah, because they need a downward vector to stop gas from expanding in all directions in their heliocentric model to fill the availability of volume as a sky vacuum. So they need a force, and they don't have one. So they conjure one out of maths, and then convolute it when giving an explanation for how you can have gas pressure in violation of natural law without a container. Because their model includes gas pressure without a container, which violates natural law. So therefore they need a force at trench level to assert we have holding gas here. And then you can reify that force by changing gas into, say, a solid and pouring it through a gas at its higher density with its intermolecular bonds and watch it go down, go boom, boom, and say that's what gas does when I pour a solid through a gas. Because we've got gravity in this maths, which isn't a force, but I can and must think of it as a force. So to think of it as a force, I'll turn it into a solid. That kind of bollocks, Arwin.
All right.
Yeah, they actually omit
Isn't there-
the effort and energy that they put into picking something up to drop it in the first place. So that's why they have to have their force.
Violations of logic in this description that I've been hearing. The law of identity and also the law of non-contradiction going on here. So it's a force, but not a force. And then it's the law of identity. What is a force? What is a non-force or not a force? And then you can't contradict. I mean, if it is a force, but it's not a force, it's a contradiction. Law of non-contradiction. It's fallacious, I think, right off the bat if you start going that direction, right?
Absolutely spot on. You can't be A and not A at the same time.
Right. So it's a law of non-contradiction.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're right,
And if you
a law
define-
of identity violation as well.
And a reification. So we got
Yeah.
all types of problems here.
Yeah, gravity's got a lot of issues. Shout out to SX0. They also need it to bend water level. Oh, right, yeah, of course. It's a catch-all kind of thing, SX0. You're absolutely right. Good point. Gravity's kind of a band-aid that they'll utilise whenever necessary. They just kind of, as Quantum Eraser puts it, begurk it out. Begurk! Gravity! So it's used for all sorts of things. Oh yeah? Why is this perfectly level water that we're utilising to make buildings not fall over and assess the land as its level nature, even by your own geodetic surveyors when they map out a tangent plane? Why is that water level not water level on your sphere? Well, because of gravity. And gravity will mean that when you move your position mathematically to a different position, you draw a new centre to the new presupposed spherical Earth that you're standing on. Therefore, that position has moved in terms of the flat water that you're looking at. Even though it is still perfectly flat, when you move your position relative to the centre of Earth, it's changed. Therefore, it's not bent. Therefore, it's not flat, it's bent. Because of gravity. Another trench-level bullshit explanation for something that doesn't make sense or work. You can't both be level and flat and bent. Another violation of the law of identity. You can't be bent and flat. You can't be not level and level. That's just nonsense, but that's what they have to assert with non-Euclidean geometry. One of those, that must be one of the most painful things cognitively to deal with. So shout out to Bev Try Thinking, who's currently dealing with a lot of fundies who have a problem with this particular issue. You know, and he seems like a fairly, laid back kind of guy, does Bev? He's like, yeah, I just get that level is level, and these guys have a real problem with it. To them, level isn't level. Level's level at your location based on a presupposition that your zenith would move down through your head and to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Therefore, level's not level if you move over 100 yards. Go on, was that Arwin?
I was just thinking.
Go on, Paul.
Oh. I was
So
just thinking about
level's not level at your location. That would mean it would have to be level at some other location. But what if somebody's at that location?
Let's the other way around. Level's always level on a globe at your location. So you draw your zenith to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and from your location, if you were to do some surveying, for instance, once you've made that presupposition, well then your tangent plane that you're actually going to measure things on is actually level, and you'll use Euclidean principles to measure it as level, like water levels being level, to give you a level surface to measure and build things on. So they will automatically assume that they've moved to a different presupposed spherical Earth central point if they map out a new tangent plane 200 yards over. So then obviously they've moved and they have to presuppose where they are now pointing, but then they'll do the same exact process. They'll map out a plane and actually build on it or assess it with level principles and Euclidean geometry after they've begged the question that they stood on a sphere. So every location that you start at will be level. It's just always changing based on the presupposition once you move to a new location and map out a new tangent. The tangent being your presupposition that you're on a sphere.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Not really.
Something I heard.
Go on, Paul.
Something I heard. I think I wonder if it was Rumpus or somebody, and he kept arguing that QE was doing philosophy and not science. And I go, what is philosophy? Philosophy is basically how you process and think about information, or help you define terms, and logic's involved in philosophy. You can't, when you're trying to describe or do things, you've got to have a certain level of philosophy in your process, like the law of identity that we talked about earlier, the law of non-contradiction. Even in science, those things still have to apply. So if you remove the philosophy out of your description or what you're trying to do, then you can just do anything you want. Anything can mean anything. Anything can do anything, according to whatever you want. So philosophy, even say philosophy is science, you got to have good philosophy to do good science. Not what I mean by that is not necessarily the scientific method, but just processing, using induction logic to figure out what's going on, or even in using the scientific method, there's an element of the law of non-contradiction, law of identity involved in that, because you got to describe your terms, what's going on. Things can't be A and non-A at the same time. Even in that realm, philosophy is important. where logic's important even more so. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
I see what you're saying. You're saying that when you're rigorously defining your terms within the scientific method, technically you're applying a certain degree of philosophy, like the Socratic method, in terms of your rigorous definition of each term or variable that you're going to be manipulating or observing as an effect. However, do you know the difference? Because although science has its roots in philosophy, there is a very distinct difference between the two. There's a very specific thing that defines the two as distinctly different. And do you know what that specific detail is, Paul?
No, off the top of my head. Experiment. Oh, yeah. Experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The experiment stage is what does it. It's the empiricism that the method offers. So at the end of the experiment stage, you'll prove your alternative or prove your null, making the method empirical. So although the derivation, what's the word? The making of the method, the formulation, there we go, of the method was through philosophy, but the method itself is empirical, and that's the difference.
Right, but I mean, the law, okay, the non-contradiction is involved, like you're in your hypothesis or your experimental stage. We know it's not this, so it is this, but it's not this. If it's both of those, then your experiment falls apart, because then which is it? So you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you were to take
it
an
sounds like you're
example,
dealing with what is this though.
well, you take an example that they would assert as science in this context. So if you say Cavendish, before you even get to their claim to be experimental stage, when you take it through the steps of the method, you find that with the use of the Socratic method and defining the terms that they're going to be using, they have an equivocation in the form of mass. So when you get to the Socratic method of defining what they will be using when they formulate their hypothesis, they don't get past the hypothesis stage because of its roots of empiricism, and also the Socratic method being applied when you're defining terms. You find that you haven't got a specific thing to be manipulating. They also have it as the cause and the effect in the hypothesis, so it suddenly becomes riddled because of your application of certain philosophical values that you would apply upon formulation of the hypothesis. So I'm totally agreeing with you, Paul. You're absolutely right in your point, but I just want to make it clear that while we're detailing some aspects of philosophy in the scientific method, the method is empirical because of experimentation.
Sorry, I was trying to get the mute button. Agreed. So I just don't want to blow by that when they started throwing out, oh, that's just philosophy of science. Well, you got to have philosophy in science in the right kind of way, and rigorously defined. Exactly.
Yeah, again, when someone says the philosophy of science, I would peg them down on what they actually mean by that. What are they asserting? Because if they're applying that to the natural science, then they're wrong. Because no, there's no philosophy involved. It's absolutely empirical. That's my point. So if you're going to say, oh no, well, when you're establishing your cause and effect and doing your experiments, well, there's a certain degree of philosophy in there. No, there isn't at all. Once you've got an actual effect that you've observed and you've got a presumed cause of it that you're trying to vary to cause it, there's no philosophy in that. There's just there's no concrete nouns. There's just your presumed cause of something you've observed. That's it. The thing is real. It's been observed in nature. So will be your presumed cause of that effect and your capability of varying it. So like you say, you are right. Once you formulate the hypothesis, you're going to get caught out or not have a viable hypothesis if you've got something in that doesn't exist, for example, or isn't rigorously defined, like mass. So yeah, things will fall on its ass because the people who developed the method were smart people. They were philosophers, and therefore they get to devise an empirical method. What other methods are there that are entirely empirical by nature? You name another. You're going to be a smart philosopher to come to that empirical method. Did we have them all?
I'm done. I thought that might create more discussion within the Globers if they're out there too, but obviously it didn't.
Hey, Nathan, just a technical update. I've restarted my phone twice. I get you on YouTube on my phone, and then it goes to a black screen, but the chat is working. Am I the only one?
I got a screen on YouTube.
Yeah, I have it on my iPad as a panel member, but for some reason, when I'm following the show on my phone on YouTube, the chat is working and the screen starts right away, but then it goes to black. But it says live. And I've restarted my phone
I'll keep
twice.
an eye on
so-
it. 10th. It seems to be okay from my end on the live
Okay,
stream.
that's fine.
So.
I just
No, I'd rather you
thinking for
mentioned it. Okay, so do you want me to put these screenshots at 10th man? You've sent me 4.
Yeah, by the way, there's a chat. Gamer Mark YouTube says 10th man is correct. I think he's having the same problem I'm having, but just so you know. Yeah, you can put those screenshots there.
When I first checked it, it said I was offline, so there is definitely an issue. However, it seems to be fine now, so hopefully
go ahead.
there is technical issues. We're being recorded anyway, so this will go out hopefully without too much technical jargon about the live stream having issues. It's had issues for the last couple of days, like glitchy. So let's just continue. If it does have any more issues, so be it.
No, I'm fine. Yeah, the pictures, are they up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is interesting. I found these time-lapse photography near an airport. As you can see, if you're looking at the same one I'm looking at with the telephone pole in the middle, the moon crossing the sky, and then the airplanes and their patterns. You see that?
Yeah, I've got it in. It's like a tornado-ish sort of thing, but with a few straight lines going through it, right? The first image.
Well, the first image with the telephone pole that's centered, is that the one you're looking at? And the moon?
Yep.
See look at the star trails behind the airplane flights. So you can see the star trails, but look at the airplane flights doing. See, but the telephone poles are steady and not moving because the Earth is not moving. If the Earth was moving, all those airplane trails, moon trails, star trails, they would be shown by the Earth's movement, and it's not. Next picture, same thing. You have a nice shot of Polaris to the top left of the picture, a tree in the foreground, and again, near an airport and all the different flights. Next picture, it looks like it's over a graveyard, but near an airport, and you can see concentric circles behind the airplane as well. There's a great imagery. I wish I was near an airport. I'd do one. This next one is awesome. What a line of sight he's got. He's got the star trails as well as the head on to the airport runway there. It looks like a sparkler, actually. And then I think there's one more, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that the one with the houses?
Got like a cityscape in the background.
Oh, okay, that's a cityscape, all right. Yeah, that's another one with a cityscape. You can see star trails faintly behind the airline. Everything's being recorded. And the last one, is that the one with the houses?
One with what looks like Polaris Center.
Oh, okay, that's another one there. I'm following on my photo album. So, yeah, there's Polaris in the center, and the airlines are on the left side with a curve to it. Yeah, I think the last one's the one with the houses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have to realize when and Mitchell knows this from Australia. Good job there. There's several options here. One, the stars are moving at 15 degrees per hour. 2, the Earth is moving. Or the ISS is moving. Well, one thing's for certain, they tell us the ISS is moving, and they give us a number, 17,500 miles, orbiting. So where's the camera on the star trails that are shot in this second law of thermodynamics violation? Are they not on the ISS, moving at 17,500?
No, it's on the ground.
No, the ones that NASA says they took from the ISS.
Oh.
The camera is on a moving object, the ISS.
No, it isn't.
No, the one from yesterday.
Yeah. Let's get the disclaimers in the way. I'll do it, and I know it's a sidetrack to your point, but it's still the overall overriding point. No, there is no camera falling around Earth. That's the begging the question fallacy of orbits at 17,000 miles an hour, or 17,500 miles an hour. In a second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, neither of those things are true. Nothing is ever going to be demonstrated in terms of orbitals. That's not going to happen. Same goes for the sky vacuum. No one's going to prove you can have gas pressure without a container. Therefore, what they claim of the ISS and its pictures are automatically fake.
Correct. That's why I said it's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Before I said, but that's what they accept. The ballers believe that the ISS is in space with a camera taking those pictures. And what I've just shown you, and anyone that's worked with star trails knows that's an impossibility. That's why that's a fake picture that never happened. It can't happen because that camera is said to be on a moving object of 17,500 miles an hour, which means that the pictures from the so-called ISS, from space, which never took place, okay, we're all good? It would be streaking in the direction of the movement of 17,500 miles, and it's not. That's why it's a phony, it's an overlay.
Everything is different up there.
And
don't
why
you
would
know
they
that?
be spinning anyway? Since we're told the reason they're spinning is because we're standing on an Earth that's spinning. They even assert that when we go to the southern hemisphere, another begging the question, oh, we see them spinning the opposite way. Well, that asserts that, yeah, they're spinning because we're spinning. So why are they spinning from up there?
Yeah, but that's not correct either. All the stars,
which
no
part is
matter
not
where you
correct?
are, rise in the east and set in the west, with the exception of Polaris. So, to assert that they travel in anti-clockwise and clockwise directions is relative to your direction, which means that, yeah, if you turn around, so when you travel out to what they call the southern hemisphere and then turn around, you could claim they're travelling in the opposite direction. Wrong! Because east would then be on your right-hand side rather than your left-hand side. And that's all you've done, turn around. But they're still going to rise in the east and set in the west.
Yeah, that's my point. I mean, you could do that in your own backyard. You turn around and they appear to go in another direction. But what I'm saying is that the reason they're even moving in that way, we're told, is because we're standing on a ball that's spinning. So when we're not standing on that ball that's spinning, why are they still appearing to rotate, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we're at the point where I think this nonsense that they also, in my opinion, do it deliberately badly so that it gets questioned. And I'm going to praise Mitchell again. You know, Mitchell quickly identified that it's just a way of begging the question that space is real and begging the question that Earth's spinning and arguing about whether or not we've got inertial or non-inertial reference frames in space. Wonderful. Let's beg the question that Earth's spinning, we've got orbits and we've got space, with this argument about whether or not we'd have polar and centric circles from the stars that are from the ISS falling around Earth at 17,500 miles an hour. When it's not falling around Earth, it's not in a second law of violation, sky vacuum, and Earth isn't rotating underneath anything from our frame of reference to give us Coriolis. So this is a cluster screw. But in my opinion, it's only a cluster screw that's out there so that we can all beg the question of space being real, beg the question of orbits, and beg the question of second reference frames, giving you Coriolis.
I think it's a little bit more elementary than that. I think they're dealing with mostly sheep who just need a picture. Once they see a picture, they accept it. There's no critical thought. There's no investigation. There's none of that.
Yeah, you're right. We're way over their heads when we say, well, hold on a second. That means that they're in the inertial reference frame and shouldn't have... We've immediately lost 90% of the globe heads. Too dumb to understand it.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, same question, hovering helicopter. Why are they still spinning?
And you'll get a response from thickos like Simon Dan. Well, because it's in the same reference frame. Earth and atmosphere travel as one. Well, hold on.
Also, the stars are in the atmosphere of Earth.
Yeah, exactly. That's where this goes for us. But for them, it's the same. Well, hold on. When you assert that, you're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour deviation. You know, all the wankers that come to the comments, 15 degrees an hour. Bob proved the Earth spinning 15 degrees an hour. Yeah, of Earth turning underneath the drone, and underneath the plane, and underneath the gyro, and underneath the pendulum, and underneath anything that's spinning as a claim to be spinning Earth. At 15 degrees an hour? Well, what do you know? You still seem to be claimed to have that effect from the ISS, which isn't seeing a Coriolis deviation because it's not attached to Earth. Therefore, what? We don't have Coriolis effect? Yeah, we already knew. It's just a convoluted cluster screw of them saying we do and we don't at the same time. So that either they can beg the question that Earth and atmosphere travel as one, not giving them Coriolis effect, but assuming Earth spinning, or asserting that Earth does turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour when it does not, because it would shorten flight times.
Yeah, the dead giveaway is the picture that they post, NASA and these astronauts, and it shows at the bottom of the overlay on a phony spinning Earth an airplane right across the so-called concentric circles, which that was taken on Earth and then dubbed over that thing in the picture form. They've done such lousy work.
Look, they've got away with having people on trapezes. So, yeah, this is nothing new. The fact that it's always been terrible, the moon landing things held together with coat hangers and gold foil, it's absolutely pathetic. And most people don't recognise it. I worked with set design and prop design and building stuff out of papier-mâché to fool an audience a number of feet. Or, in the case of the prop that is that piece of crap that they claim went to the moon, a distance of infinite feet, because they're going to grain it over after you film it off a screen that's being fed by a video, that's being filmed by another camera. That's how they got the footage to the general public. In case you don't know, the claim to be moon footage of this prop that's supposed to have landed on the moon, right? The way you got it, if you watched it on a TV as a member of the public, was the people who are at the NASA control are filming a projection screen. And that projection screen is fed from a camera that's filming a CRT monitor that is supposed to be the live feed from the moon. So let's just assume it's coming off a tape. I don't know why I have to make a disclaimer. It is pre-recorded on a tape in a studio and then played through whatever technology, VCR of some description, video cassette recorder or reel of some description, into a CRT monitor. So you've got the filming generation, then the playback generation. So you're onto second generation into a CRT monitor. Then you're into third generation because it's being filmed with a camera. Then onto a projection screen. That's fourth generation. Then from the cameras, filming the projection screen. That's fifth generation. Then onto your TV screen after broadcast. So you're getting a sixth generation image. Now, everybody on the press side were moaning. Obviously, they just want a direct feed. The TV, they're supposed to have good quality, right? Supposed to be the most monumental event in history. No. Pre-recorded on a set with props, held together with sticky tape and dreams. That's what you got. A complete farce, totally obviously fake. Now, if you're too stupid to recognise stop motion animation in the form of the claim to be voyage through a second law of thermodynamics violation, I mean, that's where this argument ends. I don't need to make any of these details, because they claim to travel through a sky vacuum. So, no, that definitely didn't happen. But the way they faked it was with all the technology they had in films. Stop motion animation and sets, backdrops. And then crap that up as much as you can with NASA Crapovision for the actual broadcast. So that it's so grainy and so late generation that you can't hardly see anything in it. It's all washed out. Anyway, that's enough of my moaning about the absolute crap technology that's claimed to be proof of space travel in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. It's absolutely absurd. The fact that people don't recognise it on the modern equivalent, which is people on high wire, is just as pathetic as this nonsense that we've currently got with claim to be star rotations that form when you're on a spinning ball Earth because it's moving and the stars relatively to you are not. You're turning underneath them. And yet they've got the same bloody thing from the ISS in its claim to be sky vacuum. Total nonsense. And to the point of absurdity where we'll get frustrated about it, but lose most globeheads if we try and use it as any sort of proof. Most of them will glaze over when you say things like inertial reference frame.
No, I'm glad you brought it up, because we have the best argument, which is the violation of the second law of thermodynamics. So we could end it right there. But it's interesting the quiet nature of the ballers when they can see the astronauts in the so-called ISS on wires. Clearly, everyone could see that, even they see it, but they never bring it up. I wonder why.
Because it's a joke. It's for children.
Yeah, that was aimed at the ballers in Discord to say, why don't you bring why don't you at least come and say, yeah, NASA is faking the ISS, but I still believe it's a ball. Why don't you at least say that? Can't even say that, can you?
I would make a channel recommendation. So Dilly Gill, Dillyggill. And the reason I'm seeming educated in terms of my very concise pulling apart of what NASA is, it's because of Dilly Gill. So I've watched most of his videos at least twice because they're exceptionally good and detailed in terms of his dissection of what NASA currently do and have done for the last 50 years in terms of their faking space and how they fake it, how they fake the live broadcasts to make them seem like they're in space, some of the technologies that have been disclosed to us in terms of current filmmaking, and they all line up perfectly, and he shows it. You know, he's also doing FOIA requests, Freedom of Information, to get some of the footage that they claim they have in its original format. He shows all of the documentation for his failings to go acquire said information from NASA. So all that's getting documented on Dilly Gill's channel. He's doing an exceptional job in that regard. He's very hyper-specific, very focused, detailed. So check him out, Dilly Gill. Couldn't recommend him more.
Dilly Gill is ace.
Dilly Gill is ace. I really appreciate people who go into the kind of detail that he does and stay specific. He's one of the reasons I've tried hard to keep the debate hyper-specific, especially when we're live. Don't want to go off onto my woes and, you know, troubles with blown-up fridges and stuff. No, that might be okay for other podcasters, but we're in an arena where if we make the slightest mistake, if we spend too long talking about frivolous things, let's take Patricia Steer as an example. Mentions her cats and other hot potatoes, and suddenly she's ridiculed by her own side as not being hyper-specific enough. Now, while I don't fear the ridicule from my own side if I choose to talk about other subjects, I appreciate that I like Dilly Gill being hyper-specific, so I see my show as being hyper-specific about the subject of debating the nature of reality. Flat Earth, basically. And why let it segue onto coronavirus or the Freemasons, all of those things, not necessarily coronavirus, but certainly other conspiratorial subjects that seem to have been pegged with the Flat Earth subject, I've looked into and interviewed people about, and I hold no fascination for them. The nature of reality, on the other hand, I hold a deep fascination for, as I believe most of my audience do, and I've got a very dedicated audience. I'm very grateful to them for their level of dedication. I can tell it in the watch time. So I'm more than keen to take a leaf out of Dilly Gill's book in that regard and say, stay hyper-specific, because your audience will appreciate it. I don't want you to digress into subsections of your subject that aren't necessarily related. I don't appreciate it. If Dilly Gill started talking about something off topic, I wouldn't appreciate it.
Are we done with the housekeeping questions?
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
Discord? Anybody? Do we have anyone on Discord?
Only drawings.
Thank you.
No evidence of anything.
No evidence of anything ever.
Everything's a conspiracy.
Not everything is a conspiracy.
We
have proof.
My car must be, because it's in the shop again.
Right, save it for tomorrow's pre-show. If I'm not going to talk about my fridge, you're not talking about your car on this live show.
They've only gone down 8 miles.
Just most things.
Say again, Arwin?
Not everything is a conspiracy, just most things.
I think it's intentional that there's a lot of subcategories of conspiracy that get lumbered in with the subjects that are, I don't want to say dangerous. Maybe it is dangerous. If the general public all got just told tomorrow that they'd been misled in terms of the model and how it actually presents in reality, I think that would cause, breakdowns in societal levels. So,
agreed.
Based on that, it is kind of dangerous. And when there's that sort of information, you've got to kind of dilute it. And I think the way that Flat Earth's been diluted is with all of those subcategories of subjects. Some of them are, are directly related. You can look up the history. I recommend Johnny Cerrucci's interview with myself in that regard. Very detailed explanation of how we've come to be on a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum. And very detailed he was. But on the whole, most of the other stuff, I just think it's bundled in with us because it's kind of fanciful and interesting and keeps people interested on a conspiratorial level. And I don't want that to... I think it's poison. I don't want it here. I want to talk about Freemasons and what else have we got that gets bundled in with Flat Earth? It's kind of nonsensical. Mandela effect and what else we got? Normally have a list off the top of my head. I can't think. I'm sure there's a dozen different conspiracies that are kind of frivolous that get bundled in with Flat Earth when you first arrive on the subject. Certainly was for me. I'm sure it's the same now.
Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, all that.
Free Man, you name it.
Federal Reserve.
The shadow people.
Here we go. It's flowing
fuel.
nice and free now. Here we go. Tartaria.
What?
Mud flood.
Hey, don't diss with Tartaria.
Mud flood. History hoax. Keep it coming. These are all
Birth
subjects.
certificates.
Here we
birth
go.
certificates,
Keep them
the
coming.
Vatican.
Right, all this gets bundled in. So you come to Flat Earth and suddenly all this other stuff, which in a lot of these lists, in a lot of that list that we've just given, I'm sure, again, if you got hyper specific about the birth certificate for the sake of argument, you could find a lot of useful information about it. But as a broad general thing, you've got to get hyper specific, so therefore shouldn't really be convoluting the idea that at a very simplistic level, we're not standing on a sphere. That's so much more simplistic. Doesn't need poisoning with some of the other periphery that may or may not be useful to a general Joe. But on a mass scale, the Western world thinks they're on a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum in violation of natural law when there's no evidence of Earth curve and we definitely aren't spinning, there's no Coriolis effect. So, to me, it's a much more cut and dry, no, you think you're on a ball and that's just flat out wrong. And merely a philosophical model that's been reified in modern society.
Well, if society all at once found out all the lies and all the reified models concerning Earth and topics to Earth at one time, at a single moment, can you imagine the chaos? No one would trust their government. There'd be chaos everywhere.
I think some of them fear that chaos, and which is why they're trying to stop us.
Doesn't Mark Sargent talk about that in the clues?
Empty theatre. Yeah, maybe it is the case that it's a controlled release and it's the other way around, Chocolate. In other words, it's not that they're trying to stem the flow to rebuild the dam. Because I think if that was the case, we wouldn't have ever got to this stage. So where the opponents say, oh, well, if it was true, you would have been shut down already. It's like, well, no, I think we would have been shut down already if it wasn't the case that this information was going to be getting out at some stage anyway, and that was an inevitability.
Right. Maybe it's like a controlled therapeutics. So they sized up that since the information is going to be spread around through the internet and social media so vividly that something as upfront as this, it must manifest or it's going to blow up people like that. So they just let it be a thing and just try to compartmentalize it away from the big money interests and all that.
Yeah, I've got another one. Retro off the back of Retro Bill Super Chat. So thank you first and foremost, Retro Bill, for your Super Chat. If rockets save a lot of fuel when launched west to east, then why do aeroplanes use the same amount of fuel both ways? Well, they don't assert Coriolis effect when it comes to planes, first and foremost, Retro Bill. But that's another one of those conspiracies, right? The jet fuel hoax, right? Like Mandela and Free Man, birth certificates.
Well, I think there really is something to it, with planes. Yeah, I think engineering basically caught up to the reality of what the public generally thinks about how it works, and they just kept it a secret. I think it is probably real.
Oh, right. So they might be ripping us off a bit for our travel flights because they're not actually getting free fuel. Let's say it's absolutely true. Not being funny or anything, but who gives a shit? Meanwhile, the Earth's not a sphere with a sky vacuum. That's the nature of your reality as you know it. I think the jet fuel hoax is just complete bollocks. Who cares? Even if it was true, who cares? So what?
I can actually tie it in.
Instead of
you know how? Well, if airplane... No, stop interrupting me.
No, 10th man. He's got a point to make here.
A point, 10th man.
I'm making a
so
point too.
If they can lie and keep an industrial secret like that from the public, then they would just as easily fool the public with known lies that they are sitting on the truth of.
I think it's the other way around, but it's much more effective if I say, hey, Joe, right, guess what? The very nature of your reality, yeah, you'd be lied to about that. So when it comes to maybe paying a bit too much for your petrol or your ticket being $600 to the UK rather than $150, yeah, you can believe it that they're ripping you off and you're being lied to 6 ways from Sunday in every respect. There's many, many, many lies out there. And the way I can prove that is with the very nature of your reality not being as you've been told from birth, during your education, and reupholstered and represented to you at every single opportunity throughout your adult life. So, based on that particular fact that your nature of your reality's not as you know it, believe me, you can be lied to about anything by the people who are in charge.
Before I was rudely interrupted by Arwen.
No, you interrupted me. This is serious, 10th man. When I'm making a point,
he was joking, Arwen. Chill out. He was joking.
When I'm making a point,
he was Arwen. He was projecting.
I was going to compliment
he was joking.
You, Arwen. I was
then do it after I'm finished, please.
God.
You be the one to talk about that. Anyway, leave it to Arwen to pump up jet fuel.
Missed the joke now. What did you say?
Totally missed the timing. He took it too serious. I was going to help him out there.
I knew that. I could detect that from your tone, but it's all right. Arwen did actually have a point to make, which is fair enough, and you don't want to get rumbled.
I love Arwen.
Arwen is ace. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Feed high volume of air to actually get the engine started on the aircraft. And there was a lot of fuel trucks all over that airfield every day fueling up these airplanes. So
yeah, while I appreciate your debunking it, Paul, I think that the point I was making was that these are sidelines that seem like kind of non-issues, even if they're true or not true, compared to the nature of reality. And
yeah,
as much
they want
as I
us
don't
there,
want to
don't
poo-poo
they?
you for detailing
There's
that.
nothing worse than lying about the prices of fuel, okay?
There's nothing worse than paying too much for flights.
Concern of most Americans, okay?
Good one, Arwen. I love that one.
You got a point. Let's be honest.
Oh.
if they're lying about the price of fuel, gosh darn it, it's $1.50 where I'm at. I remember it was $5 a gallon. So who's lying?
Yeah, I know it sounded funny, but it's actually not even a joke.
I'm still laughing.
They really are. And
Right.
hey, it's very important, half America or a big part of it is like life dependent on or economically dependent on the prices of fuel because of logistics, truckers and all that. Yeah, the price of fuel matters a lot.
Well, it depends if you're a premium member to Nathan's show or just a regular member, right?
So what you're saying is you appeal to a trucker and say you do realize they're lying to you about the nature of your reality. You're not an insignificant speck of dust in the never-expanding soup of nothing. You could actually be at the centre of it all and very important. And the trucker will go, who cares? Okay, well, how about the fact they might be charging you too much for fuel? Well, that's an outrage! Who am I going to kill?
Exactly.
I will tell them that, like, boy, there, and my thing is still showing that I need to add active.
Neil!
Neil!
Mic discipline.
It's just
Neil, get me a sandwich.
stick him on mute. It's all right. He's a New Yorker. He doesn't care.
You gave me an idea, Nathan. Next time I'm at the gas station pumping gas, I'm going to make friends with somebody real quick and say, hey, can I ask you a question?
Which would concern you more? That the nature of your reality isn't as you've been told, you're not on a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum, or you might be paying 4 cents more than you should be for that fuel there.
Yeah. Hey, are you more upset that they lied to us about the nature of Earth or these dang fuel prices?
Yeah, the sad thing about that is I know in reality, I've spent a lot of time with the great and washed, the general public, and I know what the answer to that is, and it saddens me to know the answer.
Yeah, I feel that.
Oh, I find the comedic relief. That's the way to get them back. Have a good laugh with them, and then tell them the truth.
So you're saying go the other way around, get the outrage out of the way first. Yeah, they could be charging you too much for fuel, and then by the way, and Earth isn't a sphere. We're not in a vacuum. Obviously, we would be breathing.
It's like, after you do this for a while, people, you just have to laugh at first. They'll say, oh, I can't believe you're a flat earther, right? When they're addressing me. I say, I know, can you believe it? I once thought I was spinning 1,000 miles an hour, but look, there's nothing moving.
Yeah, that's what I do. So, yeah, I used to think that people were standing antipodal to my position, thousands of miles underneath my feet. Yeah, I used to think that was reality, right? And they just look at me like, yeah.
You could take some of these arguments and start throwing them back like they throw them at us. So, for example, the edge. Where's your edge, Globehead? That could be our attack. So where's the edge of the disc flying up through the sky vacuum in the Flat Earth Society Flat Earth pancake model with a boat going over the edge of it? Where's your edge, Flat Earther? We could do the same thing back to them in the way you phrased it. I used to think the horizon was the physical edge of a sphere. Stupid was I. Do you think that, retard?
What's your dome?
Well, you're starting off on the right foot.
There you go. See, the response to that is, where's your dome? What dome? I don't know. I haven't got a clue what the sky is. I know it's not a sky vacuum, though.
I remember.
Sorry about that. I hit the mute button.
Yeah, I was asking you to get me a sandwich back there, bro.
Yeah, there you go. Pastrami, please. Yeah, I was talking to a family member, and I said, look, if I could show you astronauts on wires in a supposed spacecraft in supposed space, and if you see the wires and they're faking it, will you at least take a look at this and know that they're lying to you? Crickets. Didn't even want to see the video, didn't want me to send it to them.
Do you realise that your gas bill might be slightly higher than it's supposed to be? What's that you say? Someone's gonna die!
It's okay, bro. Sometimes gas goes down, go boom boom.
Sometimes gas goes down, go boom boom. With an exclusively downward vector of gravity.
Go boom boom, go splash splash. Carlos, what's up? What's happening, man?
What's going on?
What up? What up,
Drinking a
John?
bud. Watching the game.
I want to know where can I find the definition of goes down, go boom boom on the dictionary.
Want to erase the channel?
I told you it's not go down, go boom, boom. You didn't finish it. Go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash.
Oh,
So-
go splash, splash. I'll go. There's got to be water. I'm gonna go splash, splash.
It's just coincidence. So, Carlos, what happened was that's what typically is said by quantum eraser: go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash, as in gravity, single downward vector. But by coincidence, when Thunderfoot made his response to me, he pours out bouncy balls, shows his demonstration, and literally in the next breath says, "And boom! There you have gas pressure without a container." He says, "Boom." And you're like, "Boom?" So I then played out a video of a helium balloon going into some electrical lines, actually going boom, actually exploding. And kind of from there, it's now gas go down, go boom, boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what the go down, go boom, boom.
But it's originally QE, go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash, with gravity, single vector.
Okay.
The real joke of it is the going down part, because gas doesn't just go down, gas moves in all directions.
Okay.
Yep. Cool.
Are you really a pagan? Oh, he went on deafened.
What? Who?
Can I see these 2,000-mile-an-hour bouncy balls, please?
Carlos, are you actually a pagan?
No. For goodness gracious.
That's false advertising, then.
No, that's my last name.
I interviewed a pagan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
One of the guys I interviewed
Yeah, I
was
know.
a pagan.
I got a load of crap about that because I'm supposedly a globe selleth demonic pagan, which I'm actually a Christian. So, jokes on them.
I interviewed a pagan. I didn't know he was a pagan until recently. And he gave his disclaimers. This is Thomas Sheridan as being a pagan. And he said, I appreciate this is going to turn a lot of people off me, but I'm a pagan. I'm like, oh, right, okay.
Well, most bikers are pagan the question.
Pagan the question?
Oh, gosh.
The pagans I know are bikers, motorcycle gang. The pagans.
It's really weird, too, because the globe is idle.
Who's going to explain what a pagan is? There's going to be people watching that don't know what pagan is. I don't know enough about paganism to detail it concisely.
Everybody's a pagan till you come to Christ.
Hey, Carlos is a Christian. I want to ask him some questions.
Could somebody just detail what a pagan is? Just define pagan. Nobody? Nobody at all?
Yeah, it's somebody that believes in something other than the run-of-the-mill religions. Something other than that.
Natural.
I think that's pretty
Okay,
close.
my question.
Let me look it up.
My questions are flat Earth related, folks. Come on, let me ask my questions.
It's the after show now. A fridge talk, man. Sound deadening. That's what we talk about now. I'm only joking, Paul. Go ahead.
Okay, Carlos, if you're a Christian, how do you deal with the fact that the Bible describes an enclosed world that is unmoving, that the light was created before the sun, and that the earth was in existence before the sun? As a heliocentric, as a glober, how do you resolve that in the Bible? How do you resolve that?
It's a glober. Get out. I'm only joking. Sorry, Carlos.
Well, he did leave,
Don't
though.
want
You want to pick one of them?
Carlo,
Let's just pick one of
he's
them.
Not here.
Is he gone?
Yeah, he's not in here.
Ah, okay. I was going to focus on
I guess he got upset at Boom Boom Splash Splash.
Maybe.
I thought my questions might have scared him off. But he was there just a second ago when
I insulted him. I insulted him by telling him he was pagan the question. Come on.
Okay, then I'll open it up. See, I know there's some Christian glovers out there. Let me open it up to them. How do you resolve these questions? The Bible describes an unmoving, enclosed, that the earth was created before the sun, and there was light before the sun. How do you resolve those things?
How do you
Let me
know
start.
that it means
Can I start that with another question though? So to
Hold
be
on,
Christian,
somebody was answering in Discord.
Oh my bad.
A baller.
Let me the light for you.
Not you.
How about
It was Thick Ed, not you, Jackie. Jackie, shut the hell up.
It was your other hand.
Thick Ed, you were answering?
Yeah, I asked, how do you know that it means what you think that it means? Because a lot of Christians interpret things differently and others take it literally. So how do you know any of that?
Well, when the Bible says the earth is unmoving, so I don't take it for what it means. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying you should. I'm just wondering, how do you know what to interpret and what to take literally?
That's pretty easy, Ed. We know it because the Bible, the way it's written, when it's a metaphor, it's obvious. When it's poetry, it's obvious. When it's a historical fact, it's obvious. When it's a statement of truth, it's obvious. And Genesis is not poetry.
Well, it might be obvious to you, but there's like 40,000 different denominations. So
yes, we know that. We know that. But what I'm saying is that literal text, the actual text, is obvious. Now, if you want to take it and change it and reify it, go ahead, like you do everything else.
Well, let's go to Genesis real quick.
No.
So if it's not metaphor and it's actually an historical event, the earth existed before the sun. So now that's a time frame issue. How do you get metaphor out of a time frame requirement?
Well, if I may, I could introduce some bullshit idea.
Well, let Ed talk first, and you can come back.
Okay.
Well, all I can say is you say it's obvious to you what is taken literally and what is not. But other people might say, well, that verse is obviously not literal. So again, how do you know?
Yeah, you're walking the middle of the line where you can't walk the middle of the line. The evening and the morning were the first day. It talks about actual days. Yom is the word for day. It's used throughout the rest of the Bible to mean just a day. So we know what it is. You can just sit there and you could opine and say, yeah, but others look at it differently. It doesn't matter. It's the way it's written, how it's written. That's the way to look at it correctly. If you want to look at it differently, go ahead. But
Well,
it's not the way.
Hold on, Ed. Hold on, Erwin. My question was very specific. I said, how do you, as a global Christian, resolve it? Not how someone else resolves it. Not how I resolve it. Not how 10th man resolves it. If you're a Christian and you believe the Bible, how do you resolve it?
Is Ed a Christian? You're a Christian, Ed?
I don't know. My question was very specific.
Hold on.
No.
So why is he speaking?
Hold on, don't answer for him.
No, but nobody replied, so I asked something.
All right, so we weren't asking you then.
That's fair enough.
Right, so are there any Christian ballers in here? Not Ed, who's not a Christian?
We had that pagan guy who was obviously pagan, but he's gone now. Any other ballers that are specifically Christian that want to address this? I've got no, what's it called in this fight?
Horse in the race.
Horse. That's it. I've got no horse in this race.
Yes, you do.
No God in the fight.
Shut up, QE. What do you mean? Yes, you do.
Come on, Nathan, saddle up.
That was a nice shut up.
Yeah.
It's because he knows I'm lying. He knows I'm lying, but that's just not the point.
Nathan,
that's why I'm telling him off. Projecting
Nathan,
my anger onto
on
him for identifying it.
Talking.
I'm getting rumpus by 10th.
Yeah, because you did it on the spur of the moment.
Right.
Okay, I might have a horse in this race.
Yes, you do. We all do.
Okay, I take it back and I apologise, QE, for telling you to shut up. Totally out of order. My projection, my bad.
I liked it.
Oh, shut
don't
up!
know horses.
At least we got some spirit in here, for God's sake. Friggin' wake up.
No, seriously though, there aren't any baller globe heads. It would be interesting. The reason I'm fascinated to find out an answer because it's precisely the question I asked my uncle, who's a baller Christian. How do you reconcile these things?
Well,
What do you say?
in biblical terms, Nathan, a pagan was someone who diverted from the monotheistic faith, which is only one God, and they had other gods. That's in the context of how I see it.
Do you know what my uncle's answer was in terms of the time frames, at least? So he
Yeah, good.
He said that the word day, in terms of the creation story, doesn't mean day. It's used in other parts of the Bible to mean a period of time. Therefore, it could mean a million years.
He's wrong.
I know he's wrong. But I'm
He's
just telling you what he said.
Well, in the passage itself, it resolves that real quickly. Evening and morning doesn't sound like long periods of time to me.
Yeah, it's
like
also
24-hour period.
No, but it's easier than that with Yom. Doesn't have anything to do with evening and morning. Day means day. It's it. But it has other meanings, but with the ordinal numbers along with Yom, a day means a freaking day. Period.
Okay, that wasn't what I was going to say. I was going to say contextually, in terms of the creation story, you've already got a day defined in terms of what's happening with the lights in the sky as part of the story. So you don't need to go to anything else. It's all self-contained.
The context.
Can I
Yeah,
attempt
contextually, it's already describing what a day is contextually as part of the creation story.
They've also changed how they define firmament. They call it an expanse now to get away from what it actually is.
Just rakia, isn't it? Doesn't it mean roof?
Rakia, root word raka, beaten down, stamped out like you would in a piece of metal, hard substance. But now, because of the scientism invading the churches and people afraid to stand up against scientism, they say, oh, that word could mean an expanse, an area. Well, that doesn't even mean that.
But
Well,
even in the
no.
but even hold on,
Can
even in
I-
the context, it's holding back something. What is it holding back?
It's
Holding
clear.
back
The
water?
waters from the water. It says it.
Right. So yeah. So something you have to have some kind of container to hold something or hold something back to contain it. Come on,
Yeah,
people.
but I've had this talk with Christians, and they say, well, yeah, the water's held back, but the emptiness of space and all the planets in the universe are in between. I go, where do you get that from? That didn't even happen until day 4.
What word does it use for held back or retard?
What's dividing? You divide the waters from the waters. So like, I can
Arwen?
go ahead.
Dividing isn't retarding.
Correct.
Yeah. So can I give I'm not gonna do the baller thing anymore. That's just annoying.
Hold on.
But
I was talking to Paul.
yeah,
I
well,
didn't get a
I can
response from him.
explain it.
Hold on, Paul's making a point.
Really is? He's on
Yeah,
mute.
he's in the middle of making a point. Yeah, I was just responding to him with his point.
Well, you're talking about
Way to
talking to me.
keep
Well, I mean,
Darwin.
you're talking to me.
You said divide. Divide doesn't mean hold back. Retard means hold back.
Well, you got to. Well, how do you keep waters from mixing, or how do you keep?
Don't phrase it as a question to me. I'm not defining these words for you.
Well, I know, but I'm saying is if you divide something and in nature and in reality, the only way I can hold water or contain it or keep it from mixing with other waters, I have to have some kind of solid barrier.
That's your
involved, right?
inference. Nah,
Or some-
that's you can
Yeah.
infer that all you like.
All
Very
right.
interesting though,
Can I
Paul.
do my thing now?
Yeah, sorry, Arwen. Very interesting though, Paul. Thank you.
Right. So what if rakia, the full description given from it, is basically an ancient way to try and explain with the words then available and how it worked and how people's minds worked, an attempt to simply explain the concept of a container. Like
That's not
it's
what
a container. He
Man
made
just
a
read it out. That's
container.
not what
and,
it's.
and here's another step. If it's going to separate waters from waters, what would that mean? Well, we know that if you have a vacuum and you have water in it, it actually evaporates it. So maybe that is the way it is separating the waters from the waters.
No,
by
that would mix them.
creating the potential for gas pressure, causing the water to stay as it is and not evaporate.
Wrong. They would infuse together. They dissipate between each other. If you have two different waters separated and you put them in a vacuum together, they're just going to infuse together.
Let me read
That's
you.
not exactly what I was pointing at, but I'm just trying to basically re-engineer or reconstruct the way of thinking. Like, it was trying to be explained. That's what it is.
Yeah, but it's not
it's
explained.
a revelation, something
it's been
that's
described.
true. They're trying to explain it. So
no, I get that, Arwen, but we're just detailing specific biblical words and how it's not it's giving explanations, but the words that are being used specifically are saying separate, as opposed to retard, to hold back, or to have a barrier, or anything like that. It just says separate, right?
Let me read the word.
Well, a container will definitely separate, wouldn't it?
You can infer that onto the words, but that isn't necessarily what the words are saying. That's my point. I know we need a container, it's natural law, but that's not necessarily what it's saying. And it might be inferred in terms of, how can I say this? A hint towards the scientific description in the Bible. There are plenty of examples, but I'm saying in this example with Rakia, that isn't necessarily what's happening.
I got the etymology for the word raka. Would you like it? A primitive root, okay? To beat, stamp, beat out, spread out, stretch. To stamp, beat out, one who beats out, participle. To overlay, beat out for plating.
Right, but a roof,
out.
Right?
So it's obviously not air, and it's something solid, and it keeps the waters from below from mixing from the waters from above. And then, on the fourth day, for more context, God made the sun, the moon, and the stars and put it inside the firmament.
And also remember, he did create dry ground first before he created the sun and the stars. So that's
correct.
clear.
And God was the light before he attached the light to the sun.
Right. So I could interpret that as that he basically electrified the realm in order for the globe of the heavens to be able to manifest and become visible as the stars, the sun, and the moon as we see it with eyes.
Correct. Yeah.
Can somebody read this? Can somebody got Bible 10? Can somebody read it from Genesis? Might as well have it read out.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. Hold on. Okay. You right from the beginning all the way to the fourth day?
Yes, please. Please don't interrupt him.
Here we go. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So evening and morning were first day. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Verse 9. Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb and that yields seeds, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day. Verse 14. Then God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light on the earth. And it was so. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the fourth day.
So,
and that, my folks, is Rakia life.
Indeed, Rakia life.
Hey,
Indeed.
Rakia.
So God said, let there be lights.
No, light, not lights. Just light itself.
No, you
I
said
think.
lights.
Lights
No, light
in
in
the firmament. Not
Oh, right. That, yeah.
So, when God said, let there be light, no, he didn't. He said, let there be lights in the firmament.
No, the first
No,
one.
but
he
hold
said,
on.
let
First there was
be
light. That's the
That
first
was
part.
another
And
ver-
then
that
he
was another
starts to
passage.
go work
I
on the
got two people
heavens.
talking.
Relax, Arwen. Relax. What are you saying, Nathan?
I'm saying that the first quote that Arwen was just detailing, I'll let him go ahead, Arwen, because you were just explaining that. The first quote for there being light was also him not saying, let there be light. And the second time he says, let there be lights in the firmament, is also him not saying, let there be light, as it is often misquoted, it seems.
What?
Well, there's two times light happens, right? First,
Yes.
when he
Yes.
basically appears, start to make everything,
Yes.
the light on the face of the deep and all that,
Yes.
right? That's
Yes.
basically him, I think. That's how I see it. Like, he is the light, he is the energy. And then later, he actually places it within the more created realm, and then it's multiple lights in the firmament. That's like the light manifestations of the realm itself. He basically puts his own energy, his light, into the realm,
Yes,
and that
I
manifests
appreciate that.
as the globe of the heavens.
Yes, thank you. My point was, I listened very carefully, and at no point did God say, let there be light. Now, that is often...
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he
he?
did. He did at
Yeah, he
the
did.
beginning
Yeah.
when it
Verse
was light,
3, Genesis.
singular.
Hold on. My God.
I'm
Verse
on mute.
3. And God said, let there be light.
Oh, okay. My bad. So the second time he says it's let there be lights. The first time he does actually say let there be light. My bad, I misheard.
Yeah, let there be lights in
Nate-
an actual place. Yeah.
In my excuse,
Nathan, I
I'm
think
deaf in
it's-
one ear at the moment. That's my excuse.
Nate, I think it's
But-
two separate
but-
things.
Yeah.
Light
Yeah, Lucky.
is God, and the lights in the firmament are the lights in the firmament.
I heard some other
It-
people
it-
talk about that third verse too. God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God saw the light, and it was good. But there's other passage of Revelation that says that God is light, and this third one, we're never going to know until I ask him. There's something up there. I don't know what it is. I just speculate.
But Arwen's explanation
give
is
a-
to say that when he, as light, appears, he is presenting light to the first initial part of the creation, and that is what is good.
Well, Arwen's right, because it's clear that it's singular light before he made the luminaries, then attached light to the luminaries, so they became the lights. Prior to the fourth day, the light, singular, and then it divided from the darkness, so it was unattached to any luminary prior to the attachment to luminaries that were put inside the firmament. That's what I
Well,
said.
yeah. Remember that? Yeah, that's not the question.
What's your question?
But that is an important detail.
The question that I'm getting, maybe I'm being selfish here, was because I'd always thought, because in Revelation it says, that there's no need of the sun nor the moon because God is the light.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
already
Yeah,
Right.
and that's
Right,
how.
but the context for that is a new heaven and a new earth. We're talking about the
Exactly.
original.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Somebody said something to me about that one time, and I said, you're right about that. So I
don't
went back
follow.
to the third verse.
Sorry,
So,
sorry,
well,
sorry,
question
Huey.
in
Sorry, hold on, Huey. Can you just explain that? I don't understand, 10th Man, what you've just explained and Huey's agreed to.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well, when God made creation, we just read how he did it. But when it's all done and said, and he redeems his people through Christ, then the new heaven and new earth do not have these luminaries because it's always light, and God is that light. So it's not gonna. You don't need that. It will be light all the time. You don't need the sun anymore.
But contextually, does that mean that was where I had a slight issue? Because contextually, based on the reading, the luminaries until that point of attachment are nothing to do with the light and the dark. Now, while they appear in conjunction with the light and the dark, which is created first, this kind of, I'm not saying Arwen's correct, but the idea that the light comes and has basically nothing to do with the thing we call the sun, that just could be in conjunction, a coincidence, if you will. But it's even described that way based on what's been just read out, unless I'm missing something.
Well, it says right here in verse 2. No, let's just read it. I got it. Verse 2. It says, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. So prior to verse 4, he had a whole day, but without the luminaries causing it. It was his light, and he had a night, and that was your 24-hour day, if you want to go that far.
Precisely.
And then on day 4...
Yeah. So therefore, you've got it
then,
defined as a day within the context, and it's not attached to the luminaries.
Correct.
Say it without a cold.
Oh, can I add something, please? Please?
Yes, Arvin.
It's going to be a short one, but I just realized, like, when did he actually make life, an animal life, in which day? Because, I've concluded, okay, the luminaries, the things that we see, the apparent discs are really there because we have eyes. So maybe the light was there. There was simply no physical eyes in order to see any luminaries.
Well, I think the clue. I think the clue to your question is evident by all the herb-bearing seeds and tree-yielding, the fruit-bearing seeds and the herb seeds were made prior to the sun casting its light. So the earth was readied for the sun and the seasons and everything else. And it was on day 4 after it was seeded. The earth got seeded before the sun got activated, so to speak.
Oh, no, I would like to contest that because the day and the night were already there.
Right.
So
No, I know.
I propose that instead there were no sightings of the heavenly bodies because there were no physical eyes in order to receive that perception.
No, you're missing the point.
I think you're going a little extra.
Yeah,
hold on.
I think I'm onto something.
I'm completely with Arwen at the moment.
No, he's wrong.
You're
got a point
taking
to
away
that.
from my point, by
Can I
the way,
finish?
but that's all right. Go ahead.
Go on, 10th Man. Just respond to that.
All right. Arwen, this is the God, the Holy Spirit, telling Moses how God created everything. No one was around to see it. Even Adam didn't see it until he was made.
Yeah, that was
What's
Arwen's
your
point.
No, God
That was
is
Arwen's
explaining
point.
it. He was there.
Right.
Yeah,
He's the only
What
one.
it is.
But it almost sounds like now you're throwing in, there were a few people here and there without eyes as God is creating the earth, like just hanging out.
No,
Nobody's saying that,
that's not what
Chocolate.
I'm saying at all.
No.
Where'd you
saying-
get
Hold on.
Chocolate?
Stop.
You
Everyone
up your meds yet?
quiet. Hello. It's descended into absurdity. Let's move over to QE because this is, no, that's not what anyone said, Chocolate.
No,
I was the one taking it into absurdity with Chocolate. That was really good. I was just going back to the third verse, and it was just a question for myself because I had assumed for the longest time and spoke to this that God was the light, and I got that from Revelation, right? But in verse 3, Genesis chapter 1, it said, and God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God saw the light and that it was good, right? And then everyone said, well, God was the light. It just doesn't follow with me. I know he is the light. I already got that. I got that from Revelation. But I think it's speaking to something different here. I don't think anyone will ever know. I just think
we're
there's
getting
something
pretty
else
close.
No,
He's saying
I can
he
explain
describes
that.
the day and the night, and it's fully laid out and detailed. So therefore, what is day and what is night is detailed by him. His word is law, right? That's it. That's what it is. That's it.
Yeah,
set
no,
in
I'm
stone.
saying where's the light coming from?
He made it.
Right, he displaced his own
I know
flame,
he made
his own
it, but
electrical
where's it
flame
coming
that was
from?
the
Some
original
people
light
say that-
into the realm,
Oh
and then
my
created the
God.
day and night cycle.
Yeah, you're asking
which
where
had
it came
nothing
from,
to
Kiwi.
do with the luminaries that came like a few
on,
days
hold on.
later.
No, we're not
That's
talking
right.
about
Hold
the
on.
luminaries.
Exactly,
Chocolate.
because you need actual
We're not-
physical eyes in order
No,
for
we're
that
not.
to see.
We're not on to the luminaries yet. Go ask your question again, Kiwi. It got rumpused. I want it to come through clearly. You ask your question again.
Yeah, it's just a question for me. It's a personal question. It's happened quite recently because, like I said, I always thought that verse 3, that God said, let there be light, and there was light, that God was light, that was coming from him. I'm not saying it's not, because in Revelation, the last chapter in Revelation, it talks about there's no need of the sun or the moon because God is light. So I think God is light.
No.
There's another couple verses that said God is light. It's not the only one. There's a couple verses that say that, but verse 3 has got me somewhat a little perplexed. It's not a big deal. It may be a language barrier.
No, it's not.
Lost in translation or something.
Let me just agree with him.
Oh
Let
my
me just agree
God.
with Kiwi before you do. Yes, I agree, but it is perplexing because it's laid down in the definition, and it would make his statement redundant if that interpretation was to be taken. In other words, well, he's already light. Well, you know that, as you say, from Revelations. Therefore, it doesn't need any explanation within this context, other than he actually states it.
Right?
Can I share 1 John 1:5 in the New Testament?
Yeah,
It
that's
says,
another. Yeah, exactly.
This is the message we have heard from him and announced to you, that God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. So you can see there that they're using it in a different manner as well.
Yes.
And I want to debunk Irwin real quick with one verse.
No. Does anyone have any take before you debunk Arwen? Does anyone have any take on what I just said about that?
No, not really. Makes sense
Yeah,
so
in the
far.
new heavens and new earth, he is the light. We don't need a luminary anymore. And that's the way I see it.
Yeah, but we weren't at the
Yeah,
luminary
no, that's
stage.
the way I just said all that.
Yeah, we weren't at that stage. Chocolate had the
You're
same
not
thing to say.
saying anything. I'm saying verse 3. Where was light?
God is the light, like you said.
I know. Oh my goodness. I know. It's perplexing.
Yeah, but no, he's not looking inside
Oh,
himself. He's looking upon the darkness. So it's not that he's like, this is something that's being created. It's the creation story. So there's something that he's looking upon, and that thing isn't the darkness within himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't be looking upon it. So we're at the start of the creation. That's the thing that's in existence. But then the next thing that happens is the day and night get defined, right? External to him, because he's part of the creation story. So it's not him and
He
his
opened his
light.
eyes.
That goes without saying and is defined later in Revelations. But in the creation story about what's being created, the day and night get defined really early on, don't they? With light.
Well, Nathan, the word he uses is let there be light. So I'm looking up let there in the Hebrew, and it says it's the word haya, and it means to happen, fall out, occur, take place, come about, come to pass.
Yeah, externalize. Externalize beyond him, or to put it another way, to have it be created within the text. So it's being created, right? External to him.
Yeah,
right.
It
Because
says
if he's the light that he's talking about, he wouldn't say "Let there be light."
Precisely.
He would be like, "Let there be me."
Exactly.
I'm already that light.
He wouldn't say it'd be redundant.
that's
Precisely,
exactly-
Chocolate.
Exactly.
It'd be redundant.
He
So
just
no, it
places
wouldn't
it
get
on the
stated.
realm.
But it has to
Yeah,
be because
God
it's,
is deep.
it has to be stated because it's part of the creation. So if it isn't explicitly stated, but that's not the interesting part. Obviously, it's part of the creation story. The interesting part is where light gets defined and what it's defined as. And it's being defined as how day and night get formed really early on. Nothing to do with luminaries. And in this discussion, nothing to do with God. That's redundant. It doesn't have to be explicitly stated, but it is, and it's stated early on prior to the luminaries.
Can I add something here?
Go on,
go ahead.
Light can also be used. I'll put it like this: like lighthearted. Everything is a heart issue. So when he's saying, "Let there be light," let there be goodness, let there be joy, faithfulness.
Yeah, but that's not the context.
I get
that's
it.
out of context of verse 3
That's a
and
side
4 and
effect.
5.
I get it, but it all ties in. This is tying into creation. But as you go further and talking about God as light, he becomes all of those things, and light becomes all of those things also. We're just talking about creation, and I don't think you can do that. I mean, we are, but you have to look at the bigger picture or the whole story.
That's true, but the question's maybe I shouldn't even brought it up. It's just a personal one with me.
Text dictates
No,
what
it's
light
good.
it is. It
It's good.
just means to exist. He made light exist.
Yeah.
Where did water come from?
Yeah, that goes without saying as well, 10th Man. It's
He
part of
made
the
that
creation
too.
story. The interesting part is that in this particular part of the story, and I know QE's now going, oh, I wish we hadn't pulled this apart for 10 minutes straight, but I think it's fascinating. We've got a part of the creation story that doesn't have God as the light, because he's part of the creation, so he's got to create light within the story. So he does, but he creates it and defines it within day and night context, and then later puts the luminaries in. Now, while they might be following along with, in conjunction with, coincidentally at the same time as, the day and night that's already been created by him, that leaves him with a bit of a perplexing situation in terms of, well, what is light? What is the day? What is the night? Well, that's defined in this text, right? Biblically, you can define what day and night is. Nothing to do with the sun.
It's very simple. QE reads from Revelations where it says there won't be a need of a sun and the moon and stars anymore because God is the light for the new habitation for all believers in the new heavens and the new earth. So God does not change. He's immutable. So God is light from the beginning. And when he was making creation, God is not made. He's self-existing. So he's always this light. If he's going to be the light in Revelation, it's not going to be anything different, than before what he was, because he's always been. But when he's dealing in creation, in the context of creation, until day 4, he was that light that he said, "Let there be light." Now, how he did it, what he did, we just know it wasn't attached to a luminary at that point. On day 4, it was attached to the luminaries, and it said the moon has her own light. The sun has
you needed to
its own
stop.
light.
You need to stop back there, but then it's still redundant in verse 3.
What's the redundant part?
The redundant part, if he's light, then let there be light. It's already light. He is light.
That's
and God saw
that's what I meant.
and God
But
saw the
didn't he
light.
say-
Well, God saw him.
No, but what I'm saying is light to God is always. And he said here, let there be light, but he divided this light into a day and a night.
Yeah, but that's
It's a different-
contextualized also,
it's a
Ten.
different context
No, hold
than
on,
always
Chocolate.
light.
Hold on, Ten. So that's contextualized also because part of the firmament is the heavens, right? Well, the heavens in terms of what he has back engineered into the creation of these things to have them have an existence in the first place, that's still connected to him. Now it's connected to him through the heavens or in the actualization of the creation story, the firmament, right? That's where the heavens
But
are.
the firmament wasn't until the second day.
Didn't he say that? I don't know the exact word. Did he say something about a greater light to rule the day and a lesser light for? So that means we already had a day before he created the light for that day.
Hold on.
So
what does rule mean? Does it mean control?
He says it for times and seasons and days.
Let's get some context. What does rule, as in rule the day? Yeah, that's what it says. What does that mean, though, in this context?
It determines everything about it.
More dominant.
Kind of right,
Got some good words come in. Dominate. What else does it mean?
Day heat and all that. You gotta rearrange your schedule based on the heat.
Yeah, but
of
what
the
I'm
sun
saying
and
is-
cold of the night. So rule.
Yeah, but there was already a day in order for him to create that light to rule over it.
Right, Chocolate.
Yep, I agree.
So is it the cause in this story The answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
So Arwin, spot on.
What's the dependent and independent variable?
This isn't science.
You don't have independent. You don't have an independent dependent variable.
Trust the baller to ruin the tone.
Unobserved events.
Ma'am,
God doesn't care anything
word
about your science. Man.
chocolate. This is for chocolate.
Right
the
on
word
cue.
rule.
Hold on. Let's just draw a close to this. In the same way, if I asked you what the independent variable for the Big Bang was, would you be able to give me one? No. So let's just shut that down.
All right, chocolate. The word rule in Hebrew, mem shalah, is rule, dominion, realm, domain, rule, domain, realm. So that's what it means in the actual.
Yeah, I get that. But if you're creating a light in order to rule that, you go to already have that to rule over.
Right. So without luminaries, there was light, and it was divided for a day and a night because there was darkness to begin with. And so God's working on his creation. He's not working on his essence, what he is. He is light, as the Bible says.
Yeah, we're past that.
In Revelation. I know. I'm just summarizing it here. So then it wasn't until second day where he made a firmament, the enclosure of some kind, that separated waters from below, waters from above. And then that had a day 2. And then it wasn't until day 4 where he attached what was previously unattached to luminaries that would cause the same day and night.
Cause? No, not cause. There's no causal relation there described.
Or when, you know what I'm saying.
No, he's right though.
You got a good, but we're
he's
talking
right, isn't he,
details
10th?
here.
He's
So
right.
Right, the light is attached to luminaries.
No,
for
it
that
isn't.
day and night
No, they're
to
ruling
repeat
over
itself.
it. No, they're not attached. You're saying attached now. Why is people constantly changing the context of the word that's being used?
No, when I say attached, please don't take it to whatever extent. Prior to the sun, moon, and stars giving light,
they're not giving light. Why are you saying giving? They rule over it.
Why are we stuck on this term?
Because the words matter, Dan.
It is. It's
I know.
important.
I don't think I'm not changing the words in such a way that changes anything.
Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
He's not meaning to, is what he's saying.
Nathan's right.
You don't need the
Let's say
sun and moon to have day and night. God is day and night. God is everything. The sun just exists during the day. It's its realm.
Yeah. Raki is right, but I think the way we need to get a conclusory statement from this is maybe if QE can wrap it up by just defining light for us within this context. I think that would summarize it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Can I say something?
He thought light was
Hold on, I want a bit more of that QE action before you do.
Yeah, that was classic. Don't forget verse 17. It says, "And God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth."
What does give mean?
So what does give mean?
Mm-hmm.
To flow from it, to the essence of it coming from it.
Yeah,
more than likely.
So
hold on. If I give you some crisps, does that mean I am crisps? Because I've given you crisps?
No, but that's not the context that it said. Get the word out there, verse 17, 10.
Okay, the word says to become light, to shine, to become bright, to be illuminated, to be lighted up. This is what the give light is.
Yeah, I agree. The sun is all those things. Does that mean it's caused day or night? No.
Can I say something?
I want a response. I'm fighting Owen's corner for a change.
Cause day or night? What?
Yeah, cause. You heard me correct.
Where'd you get that? Wow.
What's with the high-pitched voice? Hold on. Why isn't 10th man answering? Why is QE defending it? 10th. No. Let's have just 10th man over a barrel with Owen's point. No. So we still, yes, the sun does all of those things that you've just given us from that passage. Yes, it does all of them. Yes, it gives off light. Yes, it shines. Does it cause the day? Even in that context, no. You still haven't proven that, even within this biblical context.
I think I can help if you'll let me.
Oh, what 10th man? What's going on? Why is everyone jumping to 10th man's defense suddenly?
No, I wanted to give a higher. What? Yeah, I can read it again. It's pretty plain to me what's happening. A day and a night was defined without the sun, moon, and stars prior to the sun, moon, and stars being made. Now a day and a night are defined by the sun, moon, and stars. What's the problem?
That's an interpretation not based
not
on.
a problem with me. I'm still back at verse 3.
Interpretation.
No, I
Day
get that,
4.
but how do I think what they're saying is like, so even though now we have the sun and the luminaries or whatever, but does that mean it's the cause of the day and night?
No, the cause is God. God made it work this way. That's, I mean,
Yeah,
to me,
he's the cause of everything. But being that you're saying that was a day and a night before we even had luminaries, right? So when the luminaries now show up, are they the same cause of the day and night, or do they just
Obviously-
coincide with it?
No, obviously, a day and a night for one day, Yom, as QE said, were done without the luminaries prior to the luminaries coming into being. Once the luminaries came into being, the day and the night didn't change in the length. There's still a day.
Right.
Now, what God did was he made light and day. Light and darkness for a full day prior to the luminaries. Then later, he transferred it somehow to the luminaries.
No, he didn't.
Where did
he
you
just
make
had
that
them
up?
rule over those periods and
Okay,
shine
I'll
and be
read it to
bright
you.
and give
I'll
off
read it
light
to you.
during them, all of which are
How many
true.
times?
So, like Arwin has
let me
said
read
many
it to you.
times before, yes, we can't disagree that the sun's giving off light or that it appears as daylight as the day becomes day, right? Well, those two things aren't necessarily joined causally. And in
Let me
terms of
just
the
read
biblical
it.
description, hold on, they're not being described that way either. If you actually get under the skin of what's being said, yeah, you can say, oh, well, they give off light and they're happening at the same time and one's ruling over it. And all these things don't mean that the sun's causing daylight. None of those things are being described.
See,
Can
you're
I say
taking.
something?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul, and then I'll finish.
Okay. I think the issue is in rule and dominion. Okay, now let's rewind all the way back to Genesis 1. Who's ruling at this point in Genesis 1? He said when God says let there be light. Who's ruling?
God.
Okay. So in a sense, so he ruled and created light and darkness. And then in verse when he transitioned it, he says, okay, now I'm going to cease the rule over this. I'm going to pass this rule over to the luminaries. Now they're going to govern and produce light and control those things. Because the next thing is when he goes down and creates the rest of creation, who's still in control there with the rest of creation? God, he's in rule. But then you go to Genesis when God creates man, he says, I have given you dominion over all of this. So then that's in the transfer and the care of this world is transferred over to men.
Well said.
So the sun's
I
taking care.
It's just an assertion.
So it's
an
taking
assertion.
care of it.
How could it be an assertion? He just read it.
Hold on.
No,
it's
he
tending
didn't
to
read
it.
it.
Hold on. The sun and hold
Did
on.
you like me to
Oh
read
God!
Patience.
Please, hello. So it's tending to it then, like a gardener tends to the grass. It's ruling over it, making. It's got dominion over it, like a gardener's got dominion over grass.
Right. I think it's in that sense of the word. I think that God ultimately is the source of light, all light. But he's given, in this realm, he's given the sun, moon, and stars to rule over the day and the night. So it's like he's given a piece of his control, a piece of who he is in control to these luminaries.
Also, Paul, on day 2, God made the firmament, but on day 4, he said, let there be lights in the firmament. So on day 2, there were no lights in the firmament. On day 4, he created the lights inside the firmament, as it says. It's pretty clear.
And let me go back to the Erwin real quick before you gets off me. There was no eyes until the sea creatures were made. The luminaries were created first, and then the sea creatures. So you're arguing that for some eyes perceiving. Okay, of course, Lily decides to scream and yell. She's quiet until I say something. So ultimately, there was no eyes until the sea creatures were created, but the luminaries were created first.
Okay, that's interesting. It still can connect though, in a way, you know? We could assume that God basically was designing the eye, and when he hadn't really applied it, he kind of like virtually simulated it from himself, and it's like, yeah, this is what it's going to be like. And then he actually integrated into the design of the fish first.
I think
that's my interpretation.
Yeah, he was getting Earth ready for man. He put the fruit-bearing
Right,
seeds.
for the eyes.
But there's no point that anybody
Wow,
observes.
can I finish?
There's no point when
No.
anybody observes day and night without luminaries, is the point. No eye has observed that.
Right,
This
but
just-
you
There is
can't
a
feel
nowhere,
it.
though.
You can't feel the daylight on your skin. You don't need eyes.
You guys are on the Nathan. You just said something that you guys are talking from a whole different perspective, from eyes that were not made yet. And here's God telling Moses through the Holy Spirit how He made things prior to making eyes on any living creature.
He's
We're
trying to
just
figure
going
out
on
an
how
infinite God
the
with a
story
finite
is
mind.
according to the Holy Spirit to Moses. Moses wasn't around; he didn't see it. He had to be told how it was made.
It's too bad we can't use the sun as a great independent variable, man. This would be a hell of an experiment.
What's the sun made of?
What is the sun?
Who the hell knows?
What's the sun made
Yeah,
of?
that's still the same. But the fact that the firmament
And how
was
do you
made
know?
on day 2,
Made of light.
Made of white.
Yeah, we're still on verse 3. I'm still stuck there, and it's just a personal sticking because somebody, like I said, I thought that it was his light, but it's just like I said. Maybe I shouldn't even brought it up
No,
because
I think that was a really good, fun discussion, actually. I'm very glad you did. It's an interesting talking point. But I am going to have to round out the show on that note. So with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!